we are involved from Bulgaria directly in Leskovac and Lebanon and have the training program which we design specially for people who are in this part, exactly meeting the needs. Have you heard about the training program which is going in Leskovac and Lebanon? If not, you better contact Daniel Leskovac, and now Slavisha is gone in heaven, but he was the one, Sharif and others in the church there. Would love to continue and help you there. We have trained Roma people who are willing to do this and meet the need on your level. Thank you.
You need training session.
Nisam to znao, zato postoji razlog tome. Te škole koje postoji u Lebanu, zbog toga što sam, nažalost, crkva u Leskovcu je podeljena i onda je bilo do nekih razmirica.
So I didn't know about that, but there's a reason, and the reason is the church in Leskovac is divided because of some quarrels, and there are reasons.
I onda tu je nedostatak informacije, nažalost, bez obzira na grad. Sad je momentalno neko pomirenje.
And there's a lack of information flow to that past. But now some kind of reconciliation is going on.
Ali nije na nivou podele podataka i razmjene takvih
It's not on
stvari.
the level of exchange of data and
Osim ono, zdravo, Bog sa tobom i nešto više.
more on personal level reconciliation going on. They do
To
not-
je iskren odgovor.
That's honest answer.
Okay. Well, that's one of the reasons we're coming together to help spur along more conversation. Any other questions? Who else has got something? I'm far away. I don't know if that will reach.
Yeah, maybe the other way around. Let's try.
Okay.
I'm not so sure how far we can go with this too.
I think you
No.
need to come to the
I
front.
need to come down?
Yeah.
Can I just
Yeah.
speak with
You
you?
can just, I think we should probably.
I would like also to add to Brother Goran what he shared, and also to Brother Nick's suggestion. We have already started our cooperation. I come from Balkan Theological Seminary. We have started our cooperation with Roma community in Leskovac, in your town, Brother Goran. And you probably know about this a little bit, maybe not in so many details. Just recently we visit the largest Roma population, church in Leskovac, which are gathering under the tent. Everybody knows about this. There are 1,000 people maybe all together inside. So they have a great need for education. There are people who are involved in the pastoral ministry without even a high school. I'm not saying this in negative context, but in positive context, that they should be encouraged to pursue diplomas, even though they are in the ministry. They should not stop being in the ministry, but they can on the way pursue their diplomas, even the high school, and then bachelor degree. So we did offer to them, and there is a good number of them, almost 10 people applied to our seminary. Just recently they started. Brother Daniel, that Nick just mentioned from Lebanon, he's a pastor there, just became a pastor because the previous pastor passed away last summer, I guess. And he's one of our students. And they all said, we lack theological education, but we are involved directly in pastoral ministry. So this is something for you. We could also discuss this privately later on, but it's good for you to hear, and everybody to hear as well, that we are very much involved in South Serbia, especially in this region. So we are offering a great help to people, even without high school. We have a special program that they can enter into bachelor degree and then pursue both diplomas somehow. And we are really offering our great help to them, because we know many people in Niš who can offer the high school diplomas, to start studying and then enroll at the bachelor level in theological studies as well. Our studies are very practical, academic, but very practical in the same way as people are being into the mission fields immediately as they start these studies. They practice what they learn. So this is very important, and I guess encouraging for you. But I can share later this with you in our language. Thank you.
Uglavnom znam da ste bili u Leskovcu i informisan sam o tome, znam.
So there is some flow of information. He knew that they were in Leskovac, so, and I'm happy about it.
I raduje me da počinje nešto novo, to je stvarno izuzetno.
That something new is beginning.
Jer ako vidimo, dosta je bilo podjela, bar ja to znam, između baptista i pentakostalaca, što za sad je to velika promjena u tom pogledu. Hvala Gospodu.
And I remember there was a big division between Baptist and Pentecostal, but now it's a big change in that direction.
I potrebna je svaka pomoć.
And all the help is needed.
I naravno oni koji su završili srednju školu naravno da koji požele da mogu doći kao studenti. Međutim, opet postoji jedna mini koštica u tome da Romi, nažalost, žene se veoma rano i onda ta problematika je, bar mi iz Leskovca i ovo možemo, jako nam je blizu Niš i ovako, ali iz daljnjih mesta je malo problematično.
So it's really good that those who have finished high school to enroll in the bachelor degree program, but also we have another problem, and that's that Roma population is getting married very early, and then it's also hard to overcome that.
Uglavnom je to jedan dobar i veliki korak. I hvala vam na tome.
That's a big step, and thank you for that.
Melody?
Yes, I wanted to ask a question, something referred to our brother from Albania and our brother from Macedonia. I'm sorry, I don't remember your names. The fact of schools, more schools existing for the students, and I think too many schools in one country, split up denominationally or because of difference of agreement. And I think the same exists in Croatia, actually, officially and unofficially, because there are even theological trainings going on, not at all associated with churches in Croatia, but established through maybe programs from America or something like that. And they're all sort of trying to win the same small body of evangelical young people or students. So I'm just curious to your response. Is this something that should be talked about more openly? I mean, I appreciated the honesty that you shared. Or should we just try to all work together, or everyone do their own thing? I mean, what's your opinion from Albania, for example?
Well, we need to talk, and communicate with one another. Because I think that we are doing the same thing, and I think mostly it's personal level, and there is competition. So, because we are a very small pond, and we try to win those students, but I mean we can talk, because we duplicate a lot, and I think I don't know, I don't have all the answers to that, so, but we're thinking about, so that's and I don't know how is that going to happen. And I think that, I think that in the Bulgarians they have, I think, one university. Is it right? Am I right, Parush? Parush? And I think that you work together in those schools, and you have a different department. So it could be like that, one school, different departments, Baptist, Pentecostal, Methodist. Wherever, and we can talk. We can. Really kind of, yeah.
I would like to say one positive example as well. Some of the best people we had, I encouraged them personally to go to Albania and they went in the Bible school where Freddie is. And this was with the purpose to be trained in Albania and to work back, when they return back, to work among the Albanians in Macedonia. So I think that's a good trend, and we must do to be a kingdom-minded people, not denominational mind or a national mind. And I feel that's a really great curse here in the Balkans, you know. And Macedonia has only one Bible school, and which started recently, but with 0.016 evangelical Christians, you know, how justifiable that is. That's again a big question.
Great question. Great question. Thank you for your. We have a question.
So I have a question on behalf of the European Accrediting Association, which, by the way, we've changed our name now. We're called the European Council for Theological Education. One of the things that's currently happening now within the ISET, within the global... Oh, slow down. Right. One of the things that's happening globally within the ISET community of accrediting is we're developing global standards for accreditation that will be used throughout the world. And we've had several meetings and we're working on a document that will be presented in Panama. One of the things we're doing in this is to consult the church. One of the differences that we feel that we bring to theological education as an evangelical accrediting organization compared to a secular accrediting organization is our desire to accredit on behalf of the church, in a way to stand in the gap between the church academy gap that sometimes is there. And so we are currently now consulting churches all over the world, denominations, heads of the Lausanne movement, World Evangelical Alliance, whatnot, asking the church, as accrediting agencies, what are things that you see are missing or are well done or could be improved in theological education to better serve the needs of the church? So I'd like to turn the question to you. We go into schools and do quality assurance. In a sense, we have power. It's a horrible word, but we do. We can ask the school to make changes that their accreditation depends on that. If you were to give us a mandate as an accrediting association of one thing that you would really like changed in theological schools, what would that one thing be?
The microphone first.
How to encourage students to go for a high education, but as well to encourage them to go deeper in servanthood, to be practical as much as possible.
So in our Albanian context, we would love to see more Albanian teachers, you know, educators in high levels, and that's what we are missing at this moment. Because as we talked yesterday, because what we have in theology today, I mean, speaking in an evangelical context, we have only translation. That's it. But I mean, okay, it's good. First, you really know what others saying, you know, what the English, I don't know, Germans are saying theologically, you know. But we need to find our thoughts, okay, and put them down. And that's what we are missing. And it's something to look forward. And I'm looking forward to that. So, yes.
Just hold on. We'll give any other panelists that want to answer that question. Do you want to answer that question?
I would like just to ask a counter question. What is your opinion, because you have broad level of experience and insights, what you would say that you have heard from various people?
I need more than 77 minutes for that. I don't know if I can respond adequately in one hand, but let's have lunch together. There's plenty that's being said. We just recently did a small.
Microphone, please.
Yeah, we just recently did a small survey in Europe through the Evangelical Alliances and gathered some feedback from about 36 different pastors in different countries. And there were some recurring themes that emerged. One was the practical dimension, where academics should be married to practice. A second very strong theme was the level of integration of theological education in society. There was a perception that theological education is still operating in a world that existed 15 to 20 years ago. And so the level of engagement with culture, with society, with current problems is very low. We're very good at knowing what Abraham and Moses thought and did, but not so much about contemporary trends. Another request that is being made by the churches is a much stronger link between theological education and the church. Even having church leaders that are participating in the teaching of theology, bringing what is up here in the ether of theology into the practice of what it means in church ministry. So some of these themes are, and one of the dominating themes is a call for more spiritual formation and character education. Churches are saying academics is great. It may not be our deepest need in the church. We need ministers, leaders that are spiritual people, whatever that means. Yeah. And men and women of character and virtue. So I'll be talking about that this afternoon.
Okay, so we already had two questions. David and then Marcel will come to you next. David.
So it will not be a question, it will be more kind of a comment. So by listening what did you present, I see three problems that rise up. So one problem, so our problem is not just to educate the workers, but the second problem is how to keep them here, which is related toward the issue of migration. And we see that problem not just in one context, in Croatia, that Pastor Damir Špoljarić mentioned, but in Bosnia, in Albania, in Serbia, in Macedonia. So not just how to educate people here, but how to keep them here. And third is how to make that kind of workers who will be relevant for this context. Because what I see at the Balkan, when we speak about evangelical movement in general, so we can be proud of existing here more than 100 years, or maybe 150. However, I don't see that we did a solid contextual exegesis, which goes to the third problem. So the problem of migration, but the third problem that was also vibrant is the nationalism. So we will not serve this context if we will just import theology from abroad. The theological institutions and churches can cooperate in this era. Theological institutions need to think about solid research of the context in cooperation with pastors and vice versa. So concerning where to start from this third problem of contextualization, so we need to make better attempts in that direction. Concerning the second thing of how to keep workers here, in a sense my feeling is that we need to think, while we are thinking about theological education, it seems to me that currently it needs to be bivocational. Young people that we want to keep, and not just to keep because it's the issue of finances. This is the problem that the Balkan churches have. So just many young people who like to stay, but how to have families if you cannot support them. So bivocational, and we have examples in Bible. And so these are some thoughts that are vibrating in me while I was listening. All of you, and maybe you can have comments, and not just you, but I'm also waiting for the second panel when the theological educators can speak from about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for your input there. Okay, Marcel, question.
Thank you. I just wanted to address a little bit the issue that I think Damir raised in the beginning, and then our brother here from EAA, the relationship between the accrediting agency and the church, especially related to what you're mentioning. What are those things that the church would expect to see in a student, and how can those be incorporated into an accreditation process? I think it's a little bit of a dangerous question. I mean, it's a good question, but it can have both, it's a double-edged sword in a sense, because on the one hand, if we continue to ask the question in this way, we again and again end up in this kind of dichotomous thinking. Let's lower the academic and raise the spirituality, which I don't think that has to be there. I think you can do both academic and spirituality pretty well. And secondly, I'll just give you an example, you'll probably laugh. In one of my contexts, the theological educator, one of the applicants to a school where I was in a admission committee, and the committee rejected the student who applied to come and study with the justification he does not fit the profile of a Pentecostal pastor. And I asked myself, where in the world did you get the profile of a Pentecostal pastor? What does that mean? I mean, because we're asking here a question, so what are the things that you would like to see in a student to fit your church? And my question is there anything like that? Aren't we, in theological education, some also engaged in a prophetic ministry to help the church grow, transform? And so just popping up a little bit of those questions, because I think we need to be careful regarding this question. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks. Thank you, Marcel. Did any one of our panelists want to respond to that?
Now I don't know really what I'm responding to, probably to everything. First thing that I want to say that I have a feeling and I believe that in spite of millions of problems that probably all of you are aware of, it's critical that in the future school and the church work together. So that distance between school and the church must start to be more narrow than wider in a sense. It must diminish. And in some way, from the position of church worker, churches need to start to believe again in theological education in some cases. And I believe that churches are not far away from that. But I think that we need a little bit of change maybe from the other side as well. And we need somehow, and when we start to believe, we will feel more ownership and we will be willing to invest. I believe, I hope so. The churches then will be willing to invest much more into the education and to willingly plan and scheme how to send more people. That will at the end return into the churches as a quality workers. Or also, we don't need to be very possessive anymore in an age of globalization. I think it's a big problem for I have a situation last 5 years when we sent a person who was a pillar of the church to study in the United States with a clear purpose in our mind what to do with her when she returns, and then she gets married there and stay. But I reject to think, it hurts, it still hurts, and I'm sometimes thinking about it, but I think still if we are really a kingdom people, I really want to think in a way that I don't care where she will finish, as long as she's working for a kingdom, and maybe we contribute from small Bosnia something in United States of America, something of a call. And also, I believe that one of the great example, and probably some academic work and case studies should be done about relationship of the church and theological faculty on the basis of what happened in the beginning of the 90s here in Osijek between Pentecostal church in Croatia and probably Baptist, I don't know how much they were involved, and this theological institution in responding to the crisis in Bosnia. I believe that I think that this can be made into one of the probably the best even in the world example how to deal in such a situation, because it was such a positive example, and I believe that our church, Evangelical Church in Bosnia and Herzegovina, exists because of this cooperation. It was critical for our history and the beginning of our movement, and I think that this maybe you should consider to do something about it. And I think it's still relevant even because there are so many conflicts everywhere, migration.
Thank you, Sasha. I appreciate that example, and
you are one of the proof of that.
yeah, so I have a history there and together there in Bosnia, but I really appreciate what you said about what I would call a no strings attached approach. Are we really for the student or the person in the pews so much that we are willing to let them go and say, God, I trust you. I've contributed in the way that you have called me to, either personally or as an institution, but we are for that person. And that kind of attitude is transformational. Question over here.
Just a word of encouragement to my brother Alfred Goloshi about the migration, the challenge of students migrating or people from the church. I understand from our context as well that the church who stays experiences it with a great sense of loss and mourning. But an encouragement that we know of God being able to work in diaspora as well. And if we look at it not only as a challenge, but also as an opportunity. And I understand that it's a legitimate question of how do we keep them here. But what if we also ask the question, how can we service the people who leave? Is it possible that those people will be the teachers of tomorrow, or the people who will now, in a better world, living in whatever destination country, be able to find a free time to be educated, to write books, to cultivate the language of theology in their own language? And if the church in these countries where the migration happens can have this attitude of forgiveness or letting them go, and maybe to even start a dialogue with the destination countries where there's theological education that is offered, and to see how you can also take care or provide for those people. Economy, politics can change in a very short time, as we all know. What if tomorrow they are the people who are migrating back because of new factories or new industries being set up in your country? It has happened in our context. And now we are profiting and benefiting from these people. So to think not narrow-mindedly, but to know that, yes, this is such a time as this, but tomorrow will come when we can actually also benefit from these people. And maybe some of the people that the churches have nurtured and have a sense of call are living already with a great sense of guilt. So how can we help them? So I don't know whether there are good examples of...
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I was thinking only about our Albanian context, but there are some, very good examples. There is an Albanian Evangelical Church in New York, and Christians who have gone there, they are church planting. So there is an Evangelical Church, Albanian Evangelical Church in Toronto, and they are working. And I think, yes, you're right. Some of them are coming back and blessing us, and that's really happening. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Other questions?
I'm Ken Venturno from near Boston, and I'm a pastor for 22 years, and
18 of those years have been in New Bedford. I love the statement that theological education is to serve the church. And I went to Gordon.
Perspective as well as pastors. Do you think the schools are doing, in your experience, an adequate job bridging that gap, or is that an area that really needs improvement in your view? Anybody?
You know, in my case, you know, because
Microphone.
yes, in my case, it's not happening because you know, it's, some of these educators they are, you know, they're Americans or English, so it's hard for them, you know, but they're doing their best. So I don't know, because that's what I'm saying. You know, we are looking for Albanian teachers. I mean, who know the context and they can really help. I mean, help in that the direction. So.
Yes. I got my basic theological education in England, and though I'm very thankful for that, but it took me more than 10 years to adapt to a Balkan Macedonian context. And so what you're saying about that is it's a great importance of a local education or regional education who knows the context of the need of the people, you know, and without really good homily how to bridge that gap, we are missing the point. And one of the sayings about the theologians, they speak something that no one understands them what they speak, you know. So how to transfer that gap, it's a challenge. And I feel, I mean, probably one of the greatest handicap in most of the theological seminaries that I know, many of the professors there, they don't have even one day a practical experience in the church, you know. Some of them even don't go to a church, which is a shame. And these people with the big hats, they have to train practical, everyday pastors, you know, and they live completely another context. And so often I feel that these guys that have been gone there to be educated, they just lost 3 years of their lives.
Thank you for your responses. Other questions? Joe?
I have some problems with my throat, so I cannot speak so loud without microphone. I don't know how can I come there. Okay, I will try. Why we don't think that education must start in our churches? And then, as I have heard a lot of gaps or how we can build the bridges between theological institution and the church. I agree 100% that we need theological education. We need people who will be equipped with theology. But in the same time, the church must understand him. In understanding, I mean that he must be very practical, very simple, that the children who are coming in the church will understand his theology, his teaching. So why our churches are not theological centers? They must be, and I strongly believe in that. So that is the reason. There was a question, Brother Goran from Leskovac asked, you must come as this institution to help us how to educate Roma people or our nation. How? I think it is very important from them also that they have to raise this question. How they, as believers and leaders in the churches now, have this knowledge, theological knowledge, education, that they can then use this knowledge and use this education in a very practical way. Okay, it would be good maybe that someone like Osiek or from America or other missions, as you call all of them, is very good. But to come and to help you, that help will be maybe to support or to educate people and so and so. But one day they will leave. What you will do then? So my suggestion is in that way to work so much more between church and theological education. And those who are finished, if they are called, if they are in Christ, they will use all their energy and their knowledge how to practice and to be very simple, as Jesus was very simple and everyone understood him. We are missing this. And one brother, I remember, he came as I was a student from abroad, and he said in the time of preaching in the church, they gave him opportunity. He said, if I will start to speak according my education, I hope very few or one or two people will understand my speech or my sermon. Why? Because I will use so high words, theological words. If you don't have any dictionary or explanation, you will not understand me. Sometimes we are just our goal, or we are shooting on that way that no one can understand us. Let us, our nations and our people around us, understand us what we have to give to them. And so, to pay attention again, it is very good to have people from abroad to help us in education. We are doing that in the same time in our theological school. But the Macedonians have done really something very good. I can mention here again, because I was a pastor in Macedonia for 7.5 years there. And at that time, there was only Methodist, Baptist. In south area, or how can I say, toward Bulgaria and Greek border. In Skopje, a little bit. But today, there are a lot of churches there. Especially, I've seen so many people now who are educated. They are ready to go and to serve to their nations, to speak their own language, and to explain theology and knowledge and understanding of the Bible in a very practical way. This is a way in which we have to go in a Balkan. I strongly believe. Anyhow, we are very open for the help, but in the same time, let us do something for our people, our nations, that they can understand us, who are we. If we are, as the Bible says, lights, let our light shine to them that they can see Jesus in us.
Thank you. Thank you. I think what I observe from your comments are a recognition that there are different, let's say, different levels of theological education, and that needs to start at the local church level. And maybe Damir, you would take. You mentioned a little bit earlier about the program that's been started in the Evangelical Pentecostal Church of Croatia, where 43 sort of emerging types of leaders are coming together periodically. And so my question would be, how, considering what our brother said about local church doing its job educating, but also on a denominational level or national level, how do we build the links between those two, let's say, levels, and then maybe build into some people from those groups going on for further education?
The idea is exactly that we offer continual education in the context where they cannot go for 3 years, separate themselves or pay debt or so. But when we exhaust this kind of approach, that we will also in the same time recognize out of these 40 people, maybe 5 that are really good potential for something more. So what Pastor Jedok has been saying, it's not one or another, it's both of these that we need. The church must have nucleus of education for sure. Denominations could have their own approach as well. And then I think we can integrate in the for the best people, or those that are showing the good appetite for something more, and then specialized education in the institutions like this school or any other school, then they could shape them and sharpen them more for some higher level. And we need for that as well. It's good. Somebody said in Macedonia there are a few PhDs. In Croatia we have that. We need that people as well. Of course, if we have 50 PhDs, well, they'll be unhappy because I remember the first product of this school for the masters in the early 90s was lady that ended up selling potatoes in the open air market. And that was of obvious frustration to her because she invested good time and a lot of money to be educated. And in our small churches we cannot have, maybe, we don't need everyone being PhD. But at the same time, yeah, we start from these levels initial in the church, develop for permanent education, and then recognize the best top-notch people that can be master level, PhDs, whatnot.
Thank you, Damir. We probably have time for one more question before we break. Is there anyone who has a further question or comment? Juliana?
I have information to share about it.
Okay. No other questions? Okay, well, thank you for please give another round of applause for our panelists. And thank you to you all for your participation. I believe now Juliana will give us some information about the rest of the schedule for the day.